There is quite literally no time to waste today, so let's kick off the pit. Alright, standings going to be up on the side as always. Team schedules down below, and small picture here. Same format as last week, but this week, instead of going over to past week's matches, we'll have time to do that in the offseason. We're talking pure playoff possibilities for every team, because somehow every team found a way to still keep themselves in it. So we're going to go over the best and worst case scenario for all teams. I'm going to have it all timestamped so that if you're an individual fan of any particular team, you can jump to that section. I would please encourage you, drop a like and subscribe if you like that, because that will hurt watch time, but I do understand if you're a passionate fan, it is what it is. Starting off with Flyquest, they have a very interesting schedule in that they actually do play Immortals, who is tied with them. They obviously have to win that game, but then they also play Cloud9 and TSM. Two of these games gettable, one game against Cloud9, realistically not, but it is the nature of the final week for teams to go on a run. So what happens if they go 2-1? Well, then that would then tie them with either 100 Thieves or Dignitas, but notably 100 Thieves and Dignitas do play each other, so one of those teams is gonna get to 3 wins and automatically be in playoffs above them. The other one, they need to make sure they don't win a single game, otherwise it's pretty much doomed. You're unfortunately playing catch up. You need to 3-0 this week to stand a realistic chance of getting in, but even if you do go 2-1, you need to pray on one of either Dignitas or 100 Thieves' entire and utter downfall, which can happen, but it sucks to know that your fate is entirely out of your own hands. And that, for a roster like Flyquest, I don't think any of us expected them to be in this position, but alas, here we are. We're in this weird spot where we could probably know by Wednesday evening how this is all going to shape up, because Dignitas does play 100 Thieves that exact day, but if Flyquest loses to TSM, it's more or less all over. The odds of them beating 2-0 or 2-1 from there, it's slim to none, but there are endless possibilities, and I can't cover them all here. We're just talking most realistic scenarios, and that's what the majority of the hype is around this final week, is once Wednesday kicks off, then it's just all intensity and we forget about it immediately afterwards. If you are an Immortals fan, this is going to be a very rough weekend, as your fate is entirely out of your own hands, and even then, you play Flyquest, who is tied with you at the bottom of the standings, and you have a 2-game gap that you need to clear on 100 Thieves and Dignitas, who notably play each other on Wednesday. So one of those teams, whoever loses realistically, you need to pray on their downfall that they end up having an 0-3 week to give you the best possible chance. Now, there is a scenario where Immortals can 3-0 and ultimately still get up there with a tiebreaker. Like, there are still a bunch of scenarios that will reduce as the week goes on, but given a schedule of EG, Flyquest, NRG, it's doable. Like, if IMT can get hot, sure, but it's gonna be so difficult for them. I do technically owe an apology, because last week I said that they're done and out. They ended up pulling out 2 wins this week against 100 Thieves and Dignitas on Friday, so I do want to apologize there to a certain extent, but I'm still gonna breathe true that I don't think they beat Flyquest on Thursday, so realistically I do think their season is kind of done. I mean, if you're an Immortals fan, I'm sorry to be the homer and realist here, but you just gotta hope that Balulu picks some fun champions to end the season, if we're being entirely honest. I don't see this going all that well. To my 100 Thieves fans, this could be an incredible weekend, could also be a very bad weekend, because based on the standings, the lowest we could possibly go is entirely missing playoffs. If we go 0-3, we only have a 2-game lead over Flyquest and over Immortals. Notably, we do hold the 2-0 versus Flyquest, so if we directly tie with them with nobody else there, we automatically qualify. If we don't, if we unfortunately 3-way tie or more from there, then there will be tiebreaker games. But hopefully with this schedule, Dignitas, NRG, and Golden Guardians, we should be able to pick up at least 1 win. This Dignitas game being probably the most important of the weekend, because assuming we win this, and Immortals and Flyquest do have to play each other on Thursday, one of them we don't have to worry about. It's likely going to be Flyquest. So if we beat Dignitas, that keeps us 2 games ahead, assuming Flyquest wins on Wednesday as well, with 2 games left. All we have to do is beat one of the other 2, or Flyquest just has to lose to Cloud9. The schedule is very much in 100 Thieves' favor. There's a reason why they've been at a 90% chance of making playoffs for an extended period of time, it shouldn't be all that big of a concern, barring us having an 0-3 week. And in that case, you know what? We probably didn't deserve to be in playoffs anyways. The other question, though, for 100 Thieves is how high can we go in a scenario where we do 3-0, what is a easier week, with the exception of Golden Guardians, who look really damn good right now. If we were to get 3 wins, 0-3 week, include Evil Geniuses, Team Liquid, and obviously TSM and everybody below. Is that going to shake up? Probably not. I'm not going to go through the individual matchups and see like all the possibilities of it. Just know there is a chance that if we go on this last week run that we could secure upper bracket and escape that 7th to 8th pit. It is going to require a little bit of luck, and fate is unfortunately out of our hands, but we can put ourselves in a pretty decent position to try and make that run and give ourselves that second life, that double chance that quite frankly I think is going to be needed in playoffs if we want to make a deep run, because I have a feeling we're going to have some falters along the way. If it all clicks at any point in time, great, but we'll see. That we can give closer to turn on, probably the better. To the Dig fans, I understand why you're sweating bullets right now. I get it. Horrible week as you bring in Poom to support over Diamond. Like the worst possible time to have an 0-3 week. Like, that burns. And now you go into an all-important matchup against 100 Thieves on Wednesday that if you win, you likely secure your spot in playoffs. If you lose this, there's a very, very real chance that you miss playoffs entirely if Flyquest can make a run at the very end and go 2-1. Dignitas goes 0-3 notably, with other losses to Golden Guardians and Team Liquid, which are entirely possible. So you need to pray for the best that you win this first game and just lock it and not have to worry about a damn thing from there. But if you lose that first one, the rest of the week is really, really sweaty and really worrisome. Now, that said, if say Dignitas clicks with Poom now and things go well, there is a possibility of them picking up 3 wins in the final week as things get hot, which could lead them to the upper bracket, similar to 100 Thieves. TL, EG, and everybody below them is sitting at 6 or worse losses. If you win 3, that puts you at 9-9, and there is a possibility of some teams just in the same way that some teams can get hot, others slow down, others drop off, and it is what it is. You drop down, and all of a sudden Dig, what do you know, has a second chance in playoffs. Do I think this is going to happen? No. I legitimately do think that Dignitas is at a very, very high risk of missing playoffs, despite having that 90th percentile. Like, the stats that they talk about on broadcast do not indicate the current trajectory of teams. If I had to place a guess, I actually do think Dignitas goes 0-3 this week and are entirely at the mercy of Cloud9 beating Flyquest, and Flyquest hopefully dropping another game from there. Like, you quite frankly have to pray on that, because I just don't see the optimistic or positive side right now of how Dig's playing and their chances going into this.
You know what really grinds my gears?
The fact that any other country thought that they could possibly beat us in the LCS Olympics this week. For those of you that missed it, on Thursday, out of nowhere, the LCS decided, hey, we're just going to do an Olympics day where they give first, second, and third place medals to the winning team after each game, which was a brilliant idea. It was so much fun. At first, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I thought it was a little bit cringy. The pregame segments, like, I tuned in and it was like, why are they wearing track stuff and all that? Like, it was odd. But then immediately after game 1, whenever the players come out and there's like this background of like fans in the stadium, and then they put like the podium there, which, by the way, the fans in the stadium thing, it's funny because there were more people in those stands than in like the actual stands of the arena. That's a weekend point that also grinds my... We'll get into that later. But nevertheless, they come out, they give the medals, and America just sweeps everything. And it was like, it felt so good to watch, because I'm a big Olympics guy, for those that don't know. I grew up in a swimming household, so Michael Phelps, Ryan Lochte, Katie Ledecky, like all of the major swimmers there. For gymnastics, for me, I personally love gymnastics. I grew up with like the Nastia Liuk and Sean Johnson, that era, even going into like the Fab 5 era. I just love the Olympics. This theme hit so hard, and it was like, please, let's do something like keep themes up like this. Maybe announce them beforehand so people aren't as shocked, but like that was a lot of fun. And the fact that any other country thought that they stood a chance, what were you thinking? You're in America. We dominate the Olympics. Fuck out of here. TSM fans, keep enjoying this ride. You're locked playoffs. You can't possibly miss it. Life is good. I must say, it does kind of suck for y'all that you can't beat 100 Thieves at all this year. And honestly, I'd be a little bit worried if for some reason they end up matching against each other in a best of 5. It just seems like for whatever reason, 100 Thieves has TSM's number more than any other team. But that point aside, it's a fairly good schedule for them. In the final week, EG is crumbling right now. Flyquest, obviously, if you can beat them, you more or less knock Flyquest out of playoffs, which would be a massive thanks on behalf of literally every other team in the LCS. Cloud9 kind of is what it is, but what's the worst case scenario here is that they drop down to lower bracket, say they go 0-3 or just have a really bad week. You're not missing playoffs, but you could lose that second life in a world where many people actually are looking at this TSM squad and saying, yeah, maybe they can make a run up the standings. But with only 7 losses, your potential also is upper bracket, like really far, like higher seeding in the upper bracket. I don't think a first round bye is possible. I mean, I'm sure there might be a scenario where everybody, including Golden Guardians, EG, TL, and NRG just start like crapping the bed in the final week. But I feel like there's got to be like some combination that would end up putting one of the teams that's just barely above them ahead, even if Golden Guardians did go 0-3 in the final week. Look, the important part for TSM and the optimistic angle this week is just trying to secure the 3rd and 4th seed, get side selection going into your first best of 5. Give yourself the best chance at winning this matchup, because now you got to look at who you're possibly going to play. Would you rather play Team Liquid, NRG, 100 Thieves, Dig, or Golden Guardians? I mean, if you could play anybody that's towards the bottom of that standing, then you feel a lot better about yourself. So one game at a time, beat Flyquest, knock them out, and then try and go as high up the standings as you possibly can. That's the optimistic angle here. Also, really quick, I just have to add this in, and I'm sure TSM fans will mostly agree with this, but Reggie, why are you chirping? Shut up. I'm sorry, but like, no, you're leaving the LC. I can't stand, like, I want to cheer for TSM fans because I do feel bad for them for some of the things that have gone on recently. I'm not talking about the obnoxious fans. Every fan base, including Optic, has obnoxious fans, but just like, God, I cannot wait till Reggie's out of the LCS. I cannot stand this guy. Do you remember back when NRG was sitting towards the bottom of the standings and like wasn't doing well, and now all of a sudden they actually could technically make a run for that first round bye? Is it going to happen? No. They're 3 games behind that slot. You would need Golden Guardians to go 3. You need a bunch of other stuff to happen, but honestly, NRG's got a very easy week, all things considered. Sure, you've got C9, but given how NRG was playing last week against some of the top teams, like honestly, they could pull it off. And then you have 100 Thieves and Immortals, 2 teams towards the bottom of the standing. So you have like one really hard matchup. But if you win that, I mean, shit, there's a chance that you make that run to the 3rd or 4th seed, get side selection. Like, I don't see a world, honestly, where NRG drops down to the lower bracket, given how they played last week. Now, sure, NRG in this roster of contracts, Palafox and Dokla, as we always talk about, is streaky. Anything can happen. Sure, they could just randomly 0-3 out of nowhere, but I don't see it happening. If they do, they'll drop the lower bracket. It is what it is. You've already secured playoffs. You don't have to worry about a thing. But upper bracket and making a deeper run in this playoffs is fine. You got to look at NRG and say, okay, got to keep building up and try to get that first best of 5 win in playoffs against C9 at some point. Like, God. I mean, this is a team that just every year it feels like we go into playoffs and we hype them up, and then they just can't get over that hurdle for whatever reason. So, I don't know. We'll see. Now we get to the fun part. Worlds conversations. These are currently our top 4 teams in the league, and as of right now, those slated to go to Worlds. If the season were to end right now and the records taken be what sends them there. Team Liquid has looked just unbelievably one side versus the other, like really good then really bad, and it just flip-flops no matter what. Notably, APA shaved his head, so maybe that'll change things this week, but they entirely control their own destiny in terms of getting an upper bracket lock-in, or not even just an upper bracket lock-in, sorry, a first round bye in playoffs. They play Golden Guardians in the first game on Wednesday, or in their first game on Wednesday, and if they do that, that brings Golden Guardians down to a tie with them and Evil Geniuses. From there, they can win out their final 2 games, notably against EG, so give themselves the tiebreaker there and put them down below, and then they play Dig. So if they 3-0 this week, you will likely see a tiebreaker between Golden Guardians and Team Liquid for that first round bye. And for those that don't know, you win that first roster, which starting in spring finished 7th, missed playoffs, like didn't look great, all things considered. That's incredible and would mark APA making playoffs and a first round bye and Worlds in his first split in the LCS. His first half split in the LCS. Arguably best start for a North American mid laner ever. Nevertheless, I was getting ahead of ourselves here, as always, which tends to happen in these conversations. TL could also go on a really bad loss streak and lose all 3 of these games and drop all the way down to like lower portions of upper bracket. I don't see a world where they get knocked down like to the single elimination part, like finishing 7th and 8th. We'll see. Who knows? But nevertheless, if you're a TL fan, hope for the best. 3-0, and you control your own destiny for securing that first round bye. EG fans, I'm going to keep it real with you. Watching this team is like watching a car crash right now in slow motion. It's just like, what is happening? The wheels are falling off. Everything's just slowly collapsing in 0-3 week. This week now, I think like a 4-game loss streak for them. When it was looking like they were going to be like a clear-cut Worlds team, like what happened here? Now they are still in a prime position to actually give themselves a chance at a first round bye. Now that can't happen on their own accord. They don't play Golden Guardians. Like they can't just outright win this. They need a little bit of help from Team Liquid to make sure that Golden Guardians gets knocked out of it, or literally any other team that plays them. But if EG goes 3-0, notably against a slightly weaker schedule, in Immortals, Team Liquid, and TSM, that TL game being like the most consequential, just making sure that they stay in upper bracket is perfectly fine at this point. Because if they go 0-3, that puts them at 9 losses. That's not saying that Dignitas or 100 Thieves make the comeback and knock them down way, like to the lower bracket to that 7th seed. But ability is going to happen. I mean, I didn't think they'd lose that many games this week, but here we are. So I don't know. But yeah, I'd be sweating if I'm an EG fan. I've seen enough to lose faith personally. So yeah. Okay. This is my plea to Golden Guardians. And it's different from Cloud9 because the expectations are different between the two orgs. Please finish this split strong. I understand that includes a win over my own 100 Thieves, which would technically suck for us, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of expecting that. Beat TL, beat Dignitas, secure that 2nd seed and first round bye, and like solidify yourself as a good team, a potential title contender in the LCS that will hopefully ramp up in the best of 5s, because regardless of what happens with C9, we know they'll rebound in best of 5s. I don't want to see another split of our top teams crumbling down the stretch. Well, yes, I'm not going to lie, it would be incredibly entertaining from a fan point of view, and making sure that, you know, this upcoming week of games is like the most entertaining with like all the different possibilities that could happen and how it could affect seeding and all that. But like, if we want the most competitive playoffs possible, we want Golden Guardians to have the best form going into it and be hot going into the best of 5 series. C9, I mean, is there really much to say here? Perennial first team, you know, looking pretty damn good, all things considered. Berserker making a very good case for MVP this split. Like, I don't know what there really is to say about this roster. Like, they've just been on top for so long. But I will say there are clear weak points that I think can be attacked here that were notably highlighted in their game versus TL, where it's like, if you can get a lead on C9 and actually close it out, you're fine. Fudge and M&S have not looked all that great relative to where they are at in the standings. And I think a team like Team Liquid definitely has highlighted that you can beat them through the solo lanes, because you're really not, I mean, they've had some games where bot lane definitely does like really chuck it away, But even then, it's like you throw out those 2 or 3 games and their skill level is still like here.